Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into an epic full-scale sea war where ironclad fleets collide and the ocean becomes a battlefield of steel, smoke, and strategy. This is a story of power, innovation, and the brutal reality of naval combat at its most intense. The setting shows a turning point in maritime warfare, where wooden ships and romantic sails give way to armored hulls and roaring engines. The sea no longer rewards elegance alone, but resilience, coordination, and firepower. Ironclad warships dominate the horizon, their metal skins scarred from previous engagements. Each vessel feels like a floating fortress, built to endure punishment and deliver it back tenfold. The conflict begins with tension rather than explosions. Fleets maneuver cautiously, testing distance and wind, knowing that one mistake can expose a ship's vulnerable side. Commanders study the water and the sky, calculating angles and speed. Every order matters because these ships cannot turn quickly, and momentum is both a weapon and a weakness. As the first shots are fired, the ocean trembles with the sound of heavy cannons. The thunder rolls across the waves, echoing between ships like a challenge thrown into the void. Shells crash into iron plating, sending sparks and fragments across decks. The impact does not always sink a ship, but it rattles the crew and reminds them how thin the line is between control and chaos. Smoke begins to fill the air, thick and dark, obscuring vision. Visibility drops, turning the battlefield into a maze of shadows and silhouettes. Crews work relentlessly, loading cannons, repairing damage, and keeping engines running. Every sailor understands their role, because hesitation can cost hundreds of lives. The ironclads advance slowly, pushing through waves and debris. Their movement is deliberate, almost unstoppable, like armored beasts trudging forward under fire. Ramming tactics emerge as a deadly option. When cannons fail to finish the job, ships attempt to strike directly, turning their reinforced bows into weapons. A successful ram sends a shock through both vessels, metal groans, water rushes in, and the crews scramble to stabilize their ships before they are dragged under. Not every attempt succeeds. Some ships glance off each other, leaving twisted steel and broken rails behind, but still fighting. Smaller escort ships dart around the ironclads, trying to exploit gaps. They are faster, but far more fragile, and every run is a gamble. Explosions erupt as magazines are hit, throwing fire and debris into the sky. The sea swallows wreckage, leaving only oil and broken wood on the surface. Communication becomes increasingly difficult. Flags are hard to see through smoke, and shouted orders are lost in the roar of engines and cannons. Leadership is tested in these moments. Commanders must make decisions with incomplete information. Trusting training shows through when instinct takes over. The battle shifts as one fleet attempts to flank the other. Positioning becomes critical, and the sea itself seems to narrow as ships cluster together. Ironclads trade broadside after broadside, each hit shaking the hull. Some shots bounce off harmlessly, while others punch deep and cripple vital systems. Below deck, engineers fight to keep power flowing. Steam pressure must be maintained even as pipes rupture and heat becomes unbearable. Water floods compartments, and damage control teams rush to seal breaches. Every sealed door buys time, but time is always in short supply. The brutality of the combat is relentless. There is no pause, no chance to regroup without risking exposure to enemy fire. As hours pass, exhaustion sets in. Crews are battered not only by enemy weapons, but by noise, heat, and constant motion. Despite this, morale becomes a powerful force. Seeing Allied ships hold the line inspires crews to push through fear and fatigue. Some ships begin to fall back, their armor cracked and engines failing. Retreat is not cowardice here, but survival and strategy. Others press forward, sensing weakness in the enemy formation. The sea war becomes a test of endurance as much as firepower. The turning point often comes suddenly. A flagship takes a critical hit, or a coordinated maneuver breaks the enemy line. When that happens, chaos spreads quickly, orders conflict, formations crumble, and individual ships are left to fight alone. Ironclads that once moved as a unified force now struggle to protect themselves. The ocean becomes crowded with damaged vessels and drifting wrecks. Fire spreads across decks, and crews race to contain it before it reaches ammunition stores. The threat of internal explosion is constant. Some ships are abandoned when flooding becomes unstoppable. Crews evacuate under fire, hoping the sea is kinder than the battle. The emotional weight of these moments is heavy. Victory and loss exist side by side, often separated by a single decision. As the battle nears its conclusion, the surviving ships slow their fire, ammunition runs low, and targets become harder to distinguish. The sea settles slightly, though smoke still hangs in the air. The aftermath reveals the true cost of the conflict. Damaged ironclads drift or limp away, their once proud hulls scarred and blackened. The water is littered with debris, silent evidence of the fight. The winning fleet does not celebrate immediately. Crews focus on rescue, repairs, and accounting for the missing. This kind of sea war changes how nations think about power. Ironclads prove that industrial strength and engineering can decide the fate of empires. Tactics evolve from these brutal lessons. Future battles will be shaped by what worked and what failed here. The review of this epic conflict highlights more than spectacle. It shows how technology, strategy, and human resolve collide under extreme pressure. Ironclad warfare removes much of the romance from naval battles. What remains is raw determination and mechanical violence, yet there is still a strange beauty in the coordination and courage displayed. Even amid destruction, discipline and teamwork shine through. This kind of combat reminds us how quickly innovation can redefine warfare. Armor that means safety today may become a weakness tomorrow. The sea war also emphasizes the importance of preparation. Training, logistics, and leadership matter just as much as weapons. Every ironclad represents thousands of hours of labor and planning. Losing one is not just a tactical blow, but an economic and emotional loss. The brutal nature of these engagements forces leaders to weigh objectives carefully. Total victory often comes at a devastating price. For viewers and historians alike, this full-scale sea war stands as a defining moment. It marks the rise of industrialized naval combat. The explanation of these battles helps us understand why navies changed so rapidly afterward. Speed, range, and firepower became top priorities. Ironclads eventually gave way to even more advanced ships, but their legacy remains. They were the bridge between old and new warfare. Looking back, the conflict feels both distant and familiar. The technology changes, but the human element stays the same. Fear, courage, ambition, and sacrifice drive every engagement. These forces are as powerful as any cannon. In reviewing this epic sea war, we see a lesson written in steel and smoke. Progress often arrives through conflict, not comfort. The brutal combat forces us to reflect on the cost of dominance. Control of the sea has always demanded heavy sacrifices. As the waves close over the battlefield, the ocean keeps its secrets. Only broken hulls and memories remain. This kind of war leaves a lasting impact on everyone involved. Survivors carry the sound of cannons long after the smoke clears. The ironclad fleets may rest now, but their story continues to shape naval history. Every modern ship carries echoes of these early battles. Understanding this conflict gives us deeper respect for those who fought it. Their endurance under impossible conditions defines the era. The explanation of this war is not about glorifying destruction. It is about recognizing the forces that drive innovation and conflict. Epic scale does not always mean heroic outcomes. Often it means difficult choices and irreversible consequences. The sea war with ironclad fleets stands as a reminder of how fragile control can be. Even the strongest armor can fail. In the end, the ocean reclaims everything. Ships sink, flags fall, and the water moves on without judgment. What remains is the story, passed down and analyzed, a story of iron, fire, and the relentless push of human ambition. That's what makes this epic full-scale sea war so compelling. It is not just a battle, but a transformation written across the waves. And that's why this review matters, because understanding the past helps us make sense of the present. Thanks for staying with me through this deep dive into ironclad warfare. If you enjoyed this breakdown, you know what to do next.